All right, so I want to talk about writing reports. And reports are going to be different from what we just wrote. We just wrote a proposal where we're trying to persuade people. But now we're going to write something about just the facts. So the quote down there, I believe the show was Dragnet, is what it's from. I used to watch on Nick at Night when I was a kid. And just the facts, ma'am, when people would just go on too much. All right, so what are reports? All right, so again, unlike the proposals, they're informing people about a specific topic instead of trying to persuade people to do a particular thing. And that's going to be different. Um, it often calls for research so previously, so far, I have not asked you to do any particular research, but this time we are, and we're going to use the library research. And when we get there, I'll explain what you need to do. You will not get to use websites, but we'll get to that a little bit that later. You're going to become the expert. The thing is, you want something that you know about, but you don't want something you're already an expert on and you feel like you don't need to do any research. I have had that happen when I had a student do a research paper and there was nothing to show where they got the information from, no quotes or paraphrase or anything, no citations. And I asked, well, where did you get this information? Well, I already knew it. Well, that doesn't help when you're doing a research paper for you to feel write about something maybe you're such an expert on, you feel like you don't need to research. Needless to say, they did not get a very good grade because there was no research for his research paper. All right. All right, so for example, hopefully you've read this or you plan on reading it if you want to open it up and look at it. But on page 757 was the reading for tonight, an ancient remedy re-examined. And so this gentleman talks about maggot debridement therapy. It's not the prettiest image in your head, especially for me. I can't stand maggots, but they have been used for a long time. And so he talks about, he gives you like the abstract. The abstract is going to be like, this is generally what this paper is about. And then there's an introduction. And then you'll notice he starts telling you about it. He's explaining it. He's not telling you we got to use it. He's just saying, hey, it's out there. A lot of people don't know about this. Here's some information. So he first describes what the maggots, defines the maggots method. Okay. Then he goes ahead and compares and contrasts. So you have the maggot debridement versus conventional treatment that they do, more modern treatment. And so he, gives you like, okay, this is what I'm, comparing it to something. And so again, informing you more about it. And then also he does something that a lot of people forget to do. He gives the drawbacks of it. So if there is a negative aspect of your topic, go ahead and mention it. Don't be afraid because again, we're informing. And I feel like a lot of times people need to know, everything. They need to know both sides of the coin. And so if there is a drawback to whatever you do, it's not a bad idea to put it in there. Because we're not persuading. When you're persuading, yeah, you're gonna you may mention, or you're not gonna just put out there, oh, there's a drawback. So you don't want to say, oh, well, someone else is right, or this is what other think necessarily, without saying why they're wrong. But again, we're informing, and so it's a report. It's not going to be something that you're going to be able to, again, persuade people about. All right, so some key features of reports. See these on pages 146 to 147 with some more information. It needs to be a tightly focused topic. So just like your topic for your proposal, and most things actually we've written about, I've kept on saying we need tightly focused topic. So for example, one of the reasons you want it to be tightly focused is we're not writing a book about it. We're not writing a book about the Beatles. We might want to write a paper about the first 5 years of the Beatles as a band. You're not going to write about the anything like that. And you won't. It can just too broad. More than likely, what I would pick is I don't know, something more specific, but I can't choose music. I'm not going to choose a history of music. Again, that's a whole book. I need something more focused. All right, accurate, well-researched information. So for this paper, again, like I said before, we're going to research it and we want it to be accurate. We are not going to be using just the regular internet. We are going to be using online resources, but we're using specifically the ones from the library databases. That's where you're going to do your research. When you get there and you find that there is just nothing on your topic, you just need to change your topic, okay? Because if there's no research on it, then it's not going to do you any good. We'll talk more about using online resources and things like that and what is reliable, and then we'll do that. All right, there's going to be a synthesis of ideas. So basically, if I'm talking about something, I want paragraph to paragraph to come together. I want some general theme or general like feeling behind it. And you're going to take the information. So if I like each paragraph is going to have different topics, but those topics just synthesize where they come together and there's some connection, they link together. And of course, there's various writing strategies. Some of the ones, if you look on page 147, they talk about, you have defining, comparing, classifying, explaining. Probably one of the easier ones is going to be defining, but you're not like, you don't want to give, it's not just going to be a dictionary definition, okay? You want something that's going to be a little bit more broad, so a little bit more, you need something more information. So for example, the one about the maggots, the essay about the maggots, he has that section that defines that method and explains what it is, okay? And comparing, that might be something that might interest you guys too. And again, the reading is a good example because one section of it, he compares it. He compares, this is the old strategy, this is new strategy. And so that's a good example. If I was going to do a comparing essay, what would it look like? So you like right there, you have those first two listed. Then both of those can be found in the essay you read for today. Cause and effects, interesting, it works. Process of it, again, all of those work explaining it. But I feel like, again, the first two are probably the easiest ones if you want to try. All right, you want clear definitions. Again, I'm not asking for a definition from the dictionary. All right, when you paraphrase your information, when you put it in your own words, you're going to take the research and put it in your own words, it should be obvious that you know what you're talking about. And so you're going to create this clear definition. You're going to create clear information. And so that's important. Appropriate design. Unfortunately for this time, although you get to choose your topic, you're not going to get to really choose the design. We're going to go with just standard MLA formatting, Times New Roman, 12-point, double-spaced. And actually, you're going to do a little bit more and going deeper in that, the actual MLA formatting when it comes to in-text citations and works cited page and that, all that kind of stuff. Okay. And we don't want to advance. All right. All right, so guide to writing reports, again, choosing a topic. When you choose a topic, it should be something that interests you. If it's something you don't care about, that's going to be obvious in your writing unless you've really learned how to fake it. And I mean, there's a lot of writers who've learned that, but it should hopefully be something that interests you. Otherwise, if you're bored with it, you're not going to give it much effort. Make it something that interests you, because take advantage, because there's going to be many times in college you're not going to get a choice. Your professor's going to say, here you go, write a report on this, and that's it. What do you want to know more about? So one of the things I was thinking about was I like electric swing, and not many people know about it, but it interests me. But I don't know a lot about it. Like, I don't know where it started. I don't know what band started it. I have an idea, a feeling about like listening to it, but I don't know a whole bunch about electric swing. So I would maybe choose that topic because electric swing, because it's something I want to know more about. Now this might be where I come into trouble. So when we get to the research part later, when the next video where I talk about actually doing the research, you'll see, what if I can't find information on that? Okay, because again, we're only using the library databases. There's lots of databases to choose from, so there's so much. So what if I can't find information? Well, now am I going to go to Google? No, not for this one. We're not going to Google. We're staying away from Google. We're staying from Wikipedia. We're just using the library. So if I can't find it, then I'm going to have to change my topic. If I can find information, I'm good. Oh, look, I found 3 articles about it. Wonderful. Okay, so that's a big thing. There are a list of ideas on page 148. they have things like technology, sports, a world event, a historical period. Again, you don't want to be like one of the things that lists as a Great Depression. That's too broad for our, we might narrow that down, right? The Great Depression in Texas, but something at least that you can focus in on. You don't want to hyper focus either, but um, where you get too much, you get so focused, okay, in Houston, in on the east side of Houston and the ship channel, how the Great Depression, you know, affect that. That's going to be maybe, you're going to have a lot of trouble finding that it's too focused. All right. Same thing, they talk about a common object. So one of the things they say is hoodies. Well, that would be interesting because where do hoodies come from? When were hoodies invented? Okay, so that might be something interesting. People wear them. Post-it notes, of course, who invented post-it notes? And then like an environmental issue. Now be careful, we are being informative. We're not trying to persuade people. So if you did talk about something like deer overpopulation, you can't, you have to make sure you're giving full information, you're not being biased on it. Okay, and the same thing, the arts. All right, so that would be where my topic that I'm thinking about doing would fall under. Okay. And then of course we have a rhetorical situation. So we have our purpose. Um, so our purpose is to inform or demonstrate knowledge. So it's very clear, like I just want to show you what I know, what I found, and let you know about this topic. Your audience, now your audience is going to be, your classmates. It may be, of course, it's going to be me as well, and anybody else who's interested in reading it. And so you have to think about whether they already know. If it's something like, say you're doing a paper on a particular car, like, oh, I'm doing this on a 1966 Ford Mustang, you don't have to give people information about the whole history of cars. And people are familiar enough with that object. We know what a car is. You don't have to describe a car. You're looking at that one car, and that's where you want to focus. Okay, so you have to think like, okay, if it's something common, like pretty much everyone has heard of the Beatles, I wouldn't have to give a whole lot of information about the Beatles. But maybe a lot of people have no idea what swing music is, and so like if I did the electric swing, I would have to start with what is swing and then what is electric swing, because I don't think a lot of people, if I wrote it for you guys, you wouldn't necessarily know where it came from. What's your attitude about it? Hopefully it's something you don't hate, but again, you don't want to love it so much that you sound biased either. So try to make sure it's something you appreciate, you're interested in. Is it going to be a written report or PowerPoint presentation? So for our example, it's going to be a written report. But in another class, you might need to do an informational presentation, like for a speech class. That's going to happen at some point. And so that's going to change. And so then you might need media and design. You might need things like graphs and pictures and videos and things like that. Okay. So that's our, again, our rhetorical situation. When generating ideas, explore what you already know about the topic. That's going to help you also. So again, if I'm doing a topic, I can't just search electric swing and then I'm done. All right. So as I'm generating ideas, I'm writing things down. I'm going to write things like, what do I know about it? And then like maybe other keywords that I can search. Is there a particular artist that I need to search? Things like that. Okay. Narrow your topic more. Again, if you find like, oh my gosh, there's just so much information in here and it's too broad, you're just going to have to try to narrow it. And that may not already happen, again, depending on your topic. You might have to do the other way where you have to broaden your information. So say if there's only like, I can only find one article in the database on electric swing, well, I might need to back up some and do like the evolution of swing and start with, the original swing and like then the ska in the 90s and then, big bands coming back and then electric swing coming back. And so I might need to broaden my topic as well. Sometimes that happens. You're going to come up with a tentative thesis. What do I want to say about this? Everyone needs to hear this. Everyone needs to, and again, it is going to sound kind of persuasive because it is the point you're making. It isn't, but you kind of say why people need to know about this. And so you're going to go with that. But again, it says tentative because you might need to change it. Then you're going to do any necessary research. Again, we're only using library resources and online library resources. And then you're going to revise your thesis, because once you get started, you might find like, oh, dang, I don't have anything that proves this thesis, but I found this other information, so I'm gonna change my thesis. Okay, your thesis, nothing is set in stone. You know, your thesis, your paper, nothing is set in stone until you turn it in. Then you gotta like, oh, okay, now I gotta, you know, I can't change anything. All right, all right. I'm trying to get it to go to the next slide, and it doesn't want to go to the next slide. All right, there we go. So we have the organizing reports on 151. So you have the reports for topics that are unfamiliar to readers. This is where you're going to spend a paragraph giving background information on it, and then go from there. What do you want to talk about? Okay. And then, like, of course, key terms. Like, if I know nothing about, um, you know, like cars, I might have to, you know, if I'm like, oh, my readers aren't going to know anything about this, this is too technical, then you're going to have to define it. And so that would be something. Okay. Reports on events. This is going to be something that's more chronological. So say you were doing something a little bit more how to, then, you know, oh, this is first you do this, or say you're doing um, the US's reaction to the coronavirus, which might be a little too new to research. But if you did that, again, that would be an event one. Like, okay, I wanted to like what's happened. Of course, we're still in the middle of it. So, and then, or like you might have a report that compares and contrasts. And this would be interesting because you might compare old to new, or, you know, that's usually the most one you're going to see the most. But you know, whatever you choose, you can compare. You know, oh, like this Apple to Android. Of course, again, that might be too broad. This particular Apple, this particular Android. But again, we want to sound fair. You know, if you're going to talk about the drawbacks of one, you need to talk about the drawbacks of the other. All right. When you draft your beginning, of course, you're not going to, the things are not going to necessarily be in here, but you do need to state your thesis as what your truth that you're talking about. And something that's before that, though, you need something that starts, you know, that's going to provoke the reader's interest. Your reader doesn't want to be bored, just like you don't want to be bored. So, you know, try to be interesting. One way, of course, is the illustrative example. And so maybe I describe what the music sounds like, or what it looks like when people dance to it. Maybe I describe the sound of the engine and the tires and the smell of the inside of the car, things like that, right? Then you kind of, when you get to your ending, to your conclusion, you can summarize your main points. This is not restating your thesis. It is kind of similar to it, but what happens a lot of times, if you tell students to restate their thesis, they rewrite the thesis, which I still remember reading. My short-term memory is not that bad, and so now it just sounds like you're repeating yourself and you're being like you're not being creative at all. So you can summarize your main points in your conclusion. You can point out the implications of your report. So say I was talking about horseback riding. What's going to happen, you know, if I experience this, if I go to this event, you know, what's the implications for my reader to them? What's going to happen to them? Also, another way to look at your conclusion is to frame your report. So say you start with a thought-provoking quote, end with a thought-provoking quote. You start with an illustrative example, and with an illustrative example. Like you might start out where it's more descriptive or narrative, and where it kind of sounds like you're starting a story, explaining like someone's first experience with this, and then at the end you finish up that story, and see how it ended up for that person. So framing really adds a lot to your paper. It can really bring everything together and connect, and it's kind of like we come back full circle. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Of course, come up with a title. One of the things I need to talk to you guys about is the title capitalization, by the way. I see this in a lot of your papers. There is a specific way. You don't just capitalize the first word. You're going to capitalize most of the words in there. The only words you wouldn't necessarily capitalize are within the title. Say if I have a short word like "and" or "the" or "and" or "for" or something like that. I'm not usually going to capitalize those words, but when in doubt, just capitalize each word, and we'll worry about it because there's more words that need to be capitalized than words that don't need to be capitalized. Okay, other considerations, of course, most of the stuff again is already decided for us. Their font is already chosen, Times New Roman 12 point. Of course, double space, all that. Headings and subheadings. You can decide if you want to do like the subheadings, like we read in the Ancient Remedy. I saw in the Ancient Remedy story or essay. That's fine. Usually it's used for longer things though, longer essays, and you know this isn't going to be a full, okay, write me a 12-page paper on your topic. So you may not necessarily need them. Again, tables, figures, graphs, illustrations, those are if I'm doing like more of a visual presentation, but since I'm doing this paper and it's just a report, an essay, I'm not going to have pictures. And I'm very grateful in the Ancient Remedy one, there was no pictures of the maggot debridement treatment because I would be sick. All right. When you are looking at your own paper, when you're going for revising, um, there are some good questions to ask yourself, or when you're reading someone else's paper, again, good questions. These are like going to tell you this is what you need to look for in this paper. Okay. And get a response. So, you know, it talks about, you know, it wants you to look at, is it interesting? You know, is the purpose clear? You know, is it, you know, the topic is, you know, things like that. It just wants you to know, do you define key terms? So if I give a term that most people don't know, then, oh, I need to put maybe a definition and afterwards. All right, so our next video is going to be on conducting research. And where I'm going to talk to you and guide you guys through after that, actually doing the research itself, and so you'll be able to see that. Okay, and so make sure though for this, take the quick quiz, answer the questions. There's gonna be 5 questions to answer on this video. Make sure you do that so that you can go ahead and get credit, and I know that you watched this with the sound on. All right, so thanks a lot.